Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Market Minute. My mission is to help you better understand the latest trends in the U.S. real estate market and share with you my analysis and industry expertise. I want to help you gain an advantage and feel confident whenever you're buying and selling real estate. I'm your host, Mark Salib. I'm a passionate real estate professional, advisor, and investor, and I love what I do. Follow and DM me on Instagram at The Salib Group. Send me an email, mark@thesalibgroup.com. And as always, thank you for tuning in to today's show. All right, folks, welcome to Weekend Q&A, where I take questions and try to answer them best I can from investors, my own clients, even listeners of the show. Get a lot of great questions, and I want to use this format to answer them. This weekend's question, it's a real interesting one. If you suddenly had enough money to completely pay off your house, would you do that? Or would you use that money to buy another property or investment instead? And honestly, the answer depends to me on several factors. I'm a very logical thinker, so for me, it's going to start with the math. But you do have to consider other factors too, like lifestyle or person's internal psychology, and even what stage of life they're in. The first thing I would look at is the math, because that's just the way I think. And I would just say, look, quite bluntly, what is your current mortgage interest rate? And then compare that to the return you realistically think you're going to get from buying this other property. If, for example, your mortgage rate is locked in at 3 or 4%, and you think that by buying this other property that you produce a stronger long-term return than that 3 or 4%, well, then mathematically keeping the mortgage and buying another property does win, right? But it's a lot of math involved, right? You got to figure that out. But if your mortgage rate is, let's just say it's really high, or let's just say you got a HELOC, and it's at a high rate because you got it in the last few years, you're paying 8, 9, 10%, or it's an adjustable debt, paying off the house it starts to look a little bit more attractive, right? Because you're carrying a high rate. Now, look, paying off the house is what I tell people. If you do it, it definitely gives you a guaranteed return, but it's equal to your mortgage rate. Right? So you're kind of returning that interest rate back to you. So you're giving yourself a return because you're no longer paying something at a certain interest rate. And of course, it obviously lowers your monthly obligations, and you're at less a risky situation, right? Because you don't have that payment. Investment property returns, they're not guaranteed, right? You still have vacancies, you got repairs, you got insurance, you got taxes, tenant issues, market fluctuations, right? But there's a certain cap rate that you're trying to figure out that if it's good, if you like what you're looking at and you see the property, say, you know what, this is terrific. It's a great deal, terrific rental area, getting a terrific cap rate. I love the long-term return of this property, and it well exceeds the interest rate I'm paying on my mortgage. Well, it starts to sound like a pretty good deal, right? I personally would go for it, but again, we're all different. And I want to get into that next. What stage of life are you in? That's the other thing I tell people all the time, right? Because these decisions change very dramatically depending upon where you are in life. Things change. As we get older, as we age, we think differently. The things that may have mattered to us a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, they may not matter to us as much, right? If you're still in the mindset of someone trying to build wealth and you feel like, I want to be aggressive here, and you're totally comfortable with, leveraging yourself and taking on risk, then sure, buying another property makes more sense for you. But if you're someone in a different stage, maybe you want to slow things down a little bit. Maybe you want to focus on something else in life. Maybe you want to prioritize simplicity, or you don't want to manage a bunch of properties. Well, then paying off your house can be very appealing, right, for that kind of person. Some people just don't want another project. They don't want another tenant to deal with. They don't want roof issues and insurance increases and, another monthly payment. Maybe they just want to maximize peace of mind, and that's important to them. Maximizing peace of mind is more important than maximizing returns. It just depends. There's also a psychological side to it. I think the decision is emotional too. I've talked to folks that, you start telling them the math and they just kind of look at you with those sort of glossy eyes. And I realize those people just love the feeling of owning their home free and clear. They sleep better, they feel better. They don't feel that financial pressure because they want to get rid of that financial pressure. And then there's other people I talk to who are like, yeah, give me the math. I don't care if I have a mortgage. I mean, debt, what debt? It's good debt. It's a tool to have debt, right? They're just thinking long-term wealth creation. So it's interesting how you can get both sides of it. You can even tell someone, look, mathematically it makes sense, but it doesn't matter to them. And let me tell you, there's wealthy people out there who still carry mortgages because they think their money can work harder elsewhere. They don't see the point in paying off the mortgage. And that's just how they think. And logically, it makes sense. Mathematically, it makes sense, right? But then there's wealthy people out there who they love having zero debt. They just want freedom and peace of mind. So there's no right or wrong. But with this one thing I'll say, this one caveat, when I say there's no right or wrong, that is true based on who you are. But there's no doubt that long-term wealth does come from acquiring assets that historically provide you a healthy and long-term return, right? I mean, let's face it, long-term wealth is built by you purchasing and controlling assets which appreciate over time. It's by using leverage wisely and just quite frankly, buying more and more properties over time. That's how you get wealthy. There's no question about it. It works, and it's always worked. So investors, they build more wealth by owning additional appreciating properties. They don't do it by aggressively paying off low fixed rate debt. That's just a fact. But again, is wealth the only goal? And that's the question, right? So it really depends on you. But at the same time, I'm going to just close with this. Everybody, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Right? You can choose a hybrid approach. You can keep the mortgage because you like the low rate. Maybe you build up a cash reserve for security instead of thinking, let me pay this off. Some people do that too. Put it in a savings account. Don't touch it. Some people may pay down the mortgage a little bit, keep some money on the side because they want to do an investment. They want a little bit of both, right? But again, it comes down to what's your rate, financial goals, stage of life, what's your stress tolerance, what kind of lifestyle you actually want. Mathematically, optimal decision is not always the emotional optimal decision. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, listen, this is not financial advice, not legal, not tax advice. Definitely talk with your financial advisor, talk with your attorney, your real estate agent, accountant, about your specific situation, because I am speaking very broadly here. Everyone's situation is unique, so I cannot give you advice on your own situation. But I can tell you that's how I would personally think it through, and that's how I would answer the question. And if you have any questions, sometimes I'll feature them here on this weekend Q&A if I have a chance. Even if I can't, send them over. Instagram at the Salib Group. Email Mark at thesalibgroup.com. And all of you who do send in questions, I try to answer as best I can. So feel free to keep doing it. And if you haven't, send it my way. That is it for me today. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. And as always, if you have questions or need specific advice, ideas, or just some help regarding your particular real estate needs or situation, or if you're just looking to buy or sell real estate in Florida, well then DM me on Instagram at the Salib Group, or just send me an email to mark@thesalibgroup.com. Don't forget to leave a rating for the show, follow, subscribe, help others find the show, and be informed and educated about the real estate market just like you. Until next time. Before we end today's show, stop what you're doing and subscribe right now to Real Estate Market Minute Plus. Listen to all episodes ad-free. Get exclusive bonus episodes and content and help support the show's growth, longevity, and future improvements. Go to realestatemarketminute.supercast.com right now. You can also find the link in this episode's show description. Check it out. I know you'll love it.